In the SMP, we last left off in Chapter 2, which was the failed plan, where Dullest Bucket and I got into a fight, and a revolution had begun in his country, and the two parties had inevitably split. However, on January 6, his luck would start to turn around, and he would become the most powerful man in the entire server. And that's where Chapter 3 starts off, the rise of Dullest. Now, when the split had first begun, me and the boys had decided to go 2,000 blocks away, and we decided to build up Rohan. These are the blueprints for what the country was supposed to be like, but sadly, this never happened. Although Rohan had a decent start thanks to the betrayal, we didn't really have the resources to build everything you see now. We did start to build a couple of farms and a couple of resources, however, we didn't have the riches nor the time to do it, so we needed to find another place to find resources. Meanwhile, Dullest and Gooch decided to find a stronghold base, and they decided to make it, well, their primary home. But they also had another far-fetched idea, and maybe, just maybe, it could make them unbelievably powerful. Their idea was known as the United Coalition of Nations, or Yukon. The idea of Yukon was to get other nations to all form together. It's basically their version of NATO, and eventually, if any country was at war, the rest of the Yukon members would help them and supply them during the war. This was essentially to get their hands on every country that had existed. And the idea worked. Yukon members were flooding in and multiple countries were joining, and Rohan saw this as a direct threat, and possibly treason. So, Rohan got an idea to defeat Yukon in a way they had never expected. Rohan, of course, as I mentioned earlier, needed resources to build up its country, and Yukon had plenty, but how could we get it? We couldn't trade because we were literally 40,000 blocks apart. But what if we pretended to join Yukon? And that's when we finally got an idea. Now, during all of this, Mito was on his own. He had no teammates, and he was pretty low on riches. And I said, hey, I'm coming up with this plan, and maybe you can go to my country if you help me out with this. He accepted, and so we both made the very long journey all the way to Dullest's country in the stronghold. And we were about to do one of the biggest betrayals at the time, the betrayal of Yukon. But you may be asking yourself, how could a smart guy like Dullest allow me and Mito to join his secret location, even though he knew we weren't members of Yukon? We had told him that we needed his resources to fight against Tengu. That wasn't true. We had told him that, and then we had told him we will join Yukon permanently if we use your resources to do this. He had accepted. We used his resources to get ourselves maxed armor and harming potions behind his back, and then one day, me and Mito prepared to make the kill. And so the assassination attempt began. The first time we tried, it didn't work, and Dullest had enough time to run away. However, we managed to catch up to him. He had died first, and Gooch was flying around attempting to take us down and grab what he can, but inevitably he died too. We had just shut down Yukon in one day. The base had fallen, and this is where Chapter 4 begins. The fall of Yukon. As me and Mito were raiding the base, Dullest and Gooch had stayed online. They didn't leave the game. In fact, they hatched a last-second plan to get revenge for the fall of Yukon. They decided to travel blindly in the Nether, having no idea where Rohan's portal was, and by some miracle, they found Rohan's portal. Shortly after, they had spawned a Wither, and Rohan was destroyed. Me and Mito had come back in our celebratory mood. We went through the portal, and we saw the purple boss bar. We were immediately scared. We decided to drag the Wither down. We had to get all of our members out. Woody and my brother had freaked out. They had managed to get out, and no one had died. And we got what we could, and we decided to run 3,000 blocks away. Sadly, this was the end of Rohan and Yukon. We got the resources we needed, but we lost our home. And this would spark a brand new age in the Gale SMP, and our brand new country would rise higher than any other had. Rohan's main enemy had been shut down, and now Rohan would turn into a new country. one that was practically 3,000 blocks away from Rohan, known as Casterly Rock. This country would make a ton of enemies and a ton of friends. It would also rise to be one of the most profitable countries ever made. That is the end for part 2. I'm going to start editing part 3, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Personally, I think it was pretty good. Very interesting chapter. The next ones are going to be even more intriguing, and the next ones after and after and after. And that is the end of today's video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share. I noticed we got a good amount of subs. Head over to the Shorts channel. That channel's doing pretty good. And yes, if you're wondering, I am sick. This is not a voice, although it does sound pretty good. And that's what I have to say for this one, boys. Peace.